3 bone-chilling gas station horror stories that haunt your night shifts forever. The gas station loomed like a shadow, its flickering lights casting eerie shapes against the pavement. It was nearly midnight, and the world outside felt silent, as if every life had been sucked into a vacuum. Behind the counter, Angie barely blinked, her heart racing at every sound. The bell above the door rang softly, and she felt a shiver crawl up her spine. Just a customer, she told herself, but there was something unsettling about the way they moved. As if they floated like a ghost rather than walked like a person. This wasn't normal. Not a single person should be out here at this hour. Then there were the stories. Everyone had heard them, the tales of strange sightings and things that went bump in the night. The missing people, the tales of an old man with a weathered face who sported a knowing smile, appearing out of nowhere. One minute you're filling your tank, the next, he's leaning down, whispering crazy secrets about the gas station's haunted history. Who could forget the legend of the door that opened on its own? Or the whispers that brushed past the nape of your neck, the chill creeping down your spine when no one else was around. The tiny screen flickered, filling her with dread as shadows flitted by on the live feed. Her hands shook as she struggled to grab her phone, searching for reassurance online. Just as she felt the panic rise, the screen blanked out. Silence slammed into her. She caught her breath, a lump forming in her throat, heart pounding louder than the wind outside. Then she heard it, a soft, almost hypnotic murmuring filtering through the air. It seemed to seep from the walls. Angie's skin prickled. She wasn't alone. A figure hovered near the drink cooler, distorted by the shadows. Panic surged. What was that? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure moved. Angie's breath hitched, eyes wide with disbelief. Fatigue weighed heavy on her, but this couldn't be fatigue. What if it was him? The old man. The one who never seemed to leave the gas station, always hovering on the edge of headlines. Missing for months, last seen at the gas station, scrawled out in the back of her mind. This couldn't be happening. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the temperature dropped. An icy wave swept through the store, her grip tightened on the counter as the murmuring intensified. She couldn't help but lean in, straining her ears. What were they saying? What did it mean? Her heart thundered, anticipation prickling at the edges of her senses, begging her to discover the truth lurking in the shadows. Would she have the courage to face what was coming next? A history buried in darkness awaited her. Could she uncover its secrets, or would she become another whisper in the night? Angie's pulse raced like a freight train as the figure stepped closer to the cooler, the murmurs growing clearer, twisting in the air like smoke. Words seeped through the static silence, voices overlapping, a cacophony of secrets demanding to be heard. Shadows danced against the cold tiles, warping into grotesque shapes that made her stomach churn. Help us, one voice croaked, full of desperation. Find the truth, another chimed in, echoing through her bones. She felt a cold sweat trickling down her back. Help? Who was asking for help? For a moment, she almost reached for the door behind her, but curiosity, the primal urge to know, rooted her in place. The lights above flickered again, a desperate strobe. Just another trick of the light, she muttered under her breath, forcing her eyes away from the figure. Yet, it pulled her gaze like a moth to a flame. The way it hovered, the way it seemed to draw energy from the shadows around it, was mesmerizing and terrifying all at once. Look closer, a soft voice nudged, as if speaking directly into her mind. Angie leaned in, heart pounding against her ribs. Then, the figure emerged from the dim light, revealing a gaunt face, weathered with lines that hinted at countless stories. The man's eyes, dark and hollow, held a depth that spoke of sorrow. The old man's familiar presence felt like both a warning and a plea. "Tell me who you are," she shouted, voice trembling, yet fierce as she broke the thick tension. Silence responded, thick and heavy, before he took another step forward. "You must get away from me," Angie exclaimed, panic clawing at her throat. She stumbled back, hands skittering over the countertop, desperate to create distance. The air felt electric, alive with tension, and she could see now a flicker of movement behind the old man. A darker shape began to materialize, coalescing into something solid yet grotesque. "Help us, or join us," the shadow hissed, its voice laced with venom that dripped into her spine. It was a warning, an invitation, a paradox wrapped in fear. Angie wanted to scream. Instead, tears stung her eyes as she forced herself to breathe, to think. The gas station wasn't just a place, it was a haunted nexus tethering lost souls to tragedy. Those missing people who vanished without a trace. Were they trapped here, at this very gas station, forever? "No," she shouted. "I refuse to be a part of this." The lights flickered violently, and just as quickly, everything plunged into darkness. Angie's heart raced, any sense of reality stretching like a taut rubber band ready to snap. She grabbed her phone, holding it up, but the screen showed only her reflection, wide eyes, ghostly pale, framed by darkness. "Help us find the truth," the whispers surged again, louder, echoing, bouncing off the walls until they trapped her in a web of sound. Breath hitching in her throat, Angie stumbled backward and caught a glimmer of movement out of the corner of her eye, a door creaking open, a beam of pale light spilling from the room at the back of the gas station, illuminating the chilling corridor. "Angie," the shadowy figure whispered, voice wrapping around her like an eerie embrace. "Come closer." What lay beyond that threshold? The tempting promise of answers hung heavy in the air, but a warning had also been issued. Was this the truth she sought, or merely another trap? Angie's fingers trembled over her phone. Did she dare to confront whatever lingered just beyond the light? With her heart racing against its cage, she felt a decision looming, one that could pull her into the depths of darkness or illuminate the path that was shrouded in shadow. Would she take that step into the unknown? Or flee from the very answers she desperately sought? The decision loomed like a specter waiting, watching, ready to pounce. Angie's breath quickened under the weight of the decision that loomed before her. With a shaky hand, she moved closer to the narrow beam of light leaking from the door at the end of the corridor. It beckoned her like a siren's song. This could be the moment she'd uncover the truth behind all the whispers, but at what cost? Her feet were glued to the floor, part fear, part anticipation. "Come closer," the wraith-like figure whispered again, and suddenly, she felt it a pull, as if some invisible force was yanking her toward that shadowy threshold. She swallowed hard, feeling a lump form deep in her throat. "Just see what's inside," she said to herself, voice barely a whisper. You need to know. The moment she took a step forward, an icy wind swept through the gas station, swirling around her like a haunted embrace. Shadows darted across the walls, flickering like flames, and the voices surged again in a frenzied chorus. "Help us find the truth." Each word struck like a hammer, echoing against her skull. As if they were demanding not just her attention, but her very soul. The figure stood frozen, eyes locked onto hers, and it seemed to dissolve into the darkness, leaving only its hollow gaze. Angie's heart thudded relentlessly as she took another step, drawn forward by curiosity and an unspeakable dread. And then she was at the door, the cold handle sending a jolt of electricity through her hand. She hesitated, heart thundering. What lay beyond? Was it answers? Was it danger? A high-stakes gamble hung in the air, waiting to play out. With a swift twist, she opened the door, bracing herself for the unknown. The light engulfed her, blinding but drawn from the shadows of the back room. The sight before her sent her stomach churning. Shelves lined with old, dusty photographs, their faces mottled and blurred, the lifelines of missing people staring back, mouthing silent screams. Each face held a story, a life cut short, a desperate plea echoing once more through the air. "Help us!" Angie stumbled backward, panic rising in her chest. She turned to leave, but the door slammed shut, locking her in, sealing her within the haunted history of the gas station. The whispers intensified, growing more frantic, their urgency cutting through her. "Find the truth, join us!" She felt like a candle in a gusting wind, about to extinguish, but the flicker of rage ignited inside her. "No!" she screamed against the shadows. "I refuse to end up like you." And just as those words left her lips, an overwhelming force knocked her back, sending her sprawling to the floor. The whispering voices sharpened, angry now, as if her defiance had awakened an ancient wrath. "Join us!" Darkness clawed at the edges of her vision, and suddenly, blurry figures began to swirl around her, fleshy forms shifting in and out, faces contorted in agony, mouths stretched wide in mute screams. They were all there, the lost souls of those who had disappeared without a trace, forever trapped in this haunted hell. Terror coiled around her throat like a steel band as she fought to fuel her resolve. She scrambled to her feet, breath hitching violently, hands trembling. "Stop! I want to be part of this!" she shouted defiantly, heart hammering, but the shadows surged forward, merging, and the figure stepped out again, fearsome and pitiful at once. "Help us! Break the cycle!" His voice boomed like thunder, shattering whatever bravery still lingered within her. Just as the shadows wove tighter, Angie caught sight of an escape, a window at the far end of the room, slightly ajar, bathed in the haunting glow of moonlight. It was now or never. With panic fueling her steps, she darted toward it, feeling the cold breath of the shadows clawing at her heels. The sense of urgency pulled her along, and the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. Would she make it? Or would the gas station claim her too, twisting her fate into a dark tapestry of despair? The heavy silence that followed was suffocating, a moment of suspended tension that could snap at any moment. Angie sprinted towards the window, heart pounding in her ears like a war drum. Cold, clammy fingers of darkness brushed against her skin, urging her to stay, to engage. But the thought of being another lost face among the photographs dissolved her fear into pure drive. The glass was within reach. She felt it, just inches away. Shadows writhed and twisted, whispering her name in a cacophony that echoed in her mind, drowning out rational thought. Join us, their voices melded into a singular chant, a call to surrender. Frantic, she launched herself forward, her fingers grasping the sill of the window. The wood was splintered and peeling, an old, dusty memory of a time long past. With a firm shove, she pushed the window open, its hinges screeching in protest. A blast of cool night air rushed in, wrapping around her like a lifeline. "Help us! You can't escape!" The anguished figure bellowed once more, its eyes burning hot with desperation and wrath. A chill slithered up her spine as Angie hesitated, teetering on the edge between the horror behind her and the unknown ahead. She risked a glance backward, locking eyes with the figure too human, too sorrowful. It was as if the weight of history, grief, and unresolved pain were embodied in that one anguished gaze. A moment of hesitation almost gripped her heart before she pulled her focus back to the window, energy prickling under her skin. "Not today!" she shouted, and in one swift motion, she hurled herself through the opening. The world outside was a stark contrast, a cacophony of crickets and rustling leaves, the fresh scent of night wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. She crashed into the soft earth below, rolling to absorb the impact. Adrenaline pulsed through her veins, urging her to move. The gas station loomed behind her, a dark, foreboding silhouette. Angie pushed herself off the ground, stumbling to her feet. She darted toward the road, the warm light of a distant truck flickering like a star in the night. Each step felt heavier, though, as the whispers followed her, trailing like ghosts. "Help us, don't forget!" She gritted her teeth and sprinted for freedom. The truck roared past, the driver oblivious to the chaos that gripped the gas station, the anguish within. Halfway to the road, something struck her from behind, a wave of disorientation crashing over her as if the very shadows were reaching out, trying to pull her back. Angie gasped, fighting against it, her world spinning. Then, just as quickly, everything went silent. Abrupt silence screamed in her ears. Confusion clouded her mind as she stumbled, every fiber of her being screaming for her to keep moving. She was free, but the gas station had marked her. Was she truly free, or would those lost souls reach out forever? Fighting to clear the fog in her mind, she focused on the lights ahead, taking a deep breath. But then she froze. In the distance, she saw a flicker of movement in the shadows. A silhouette stepped out from a thicket, matching her breathless pace, walking towards her with a predatory, unhurried stride. As it drew closer, moonlight caught the face, twisting her stomach. There was no mistaking it. One of the photographs, one of the lost. "Help us, help me," it pleaded, the voice dragging Angie back into the nightmare she fought to escape. Her chest tightened, realization crashing over her. What if escape wasn't the end? What if the cycle had just begun? As she turned to flee once more, a second shadow emerged, and her heart plummeted. Who else was waiting in the dark? Would she have the strength to break free a second time? The tension coiled tighter than ever as she prepared to face whatever came next. Angie felt her breath quicken, her mind racing as the two figures closed in, their movements slow yet deliberate. Panic clawed at her throat. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of desperation. The first figure stepped closer, the moonlight illuminating a face contorted with sorrow and regret. "We're trapped just like you, help us find peace." The plea vibrated through the air, a haunting melody of hope and despair. This was no ordinary ghost, this was a call for a savior, but before Angie could respond, the second silhouette lurked behind, tendrils of darkness swirling around it. The unease escalated as an unnerving whisper slipped through the space, "You can't leave us, we need you to stay." The voice chilled her to the bone. She took a step back, glancing from one ghostly figure to the other, trying to find a path through the growing dread. "No. I want help. You're just shadows." Yet, the faint echo of their pain reverberated in her chest, anchoring her feet to the ground. "Angie," the first figure implored, its eyes burning with an intense fire. "You've seen our faces, you've felt our grief. You must remember us. Help us and we can all be free." For a fleeting moment, remorse flickered in her heart. What if their pain was genuine? Would she truly turn her back on souls abandoned and forgotten? It felt wrong, yet the fear of being caught in their torment gripped her even tighter. "Just run." A small voice inside her screamed. She fought against the icy grip of their words, squaring her shoulders. "You're just lost spirits. I don't owe you anything." As if angered by her defiance, the shadows began to stretch, creeping toward her with sinister intent. The air thickened around her, pressing down like a heavy weight. She could barely move as they inched closer, their sorrow transforming into desperation, their presence palpable and overwhelming. "Let us in, Angie, be one with us," the second figure hissed, its voice layered with otherworldly despair. A chill stomped through her veins, and an odd connection formed between them, a tug at her very essence. "No. I want to let you take me." Angie broke free from her paralysis, bolting into the night. She sprinted, legs pumping, heart racing faster than ever. Behind her, she could hear them, an anguished wail rising in crescendo, echoing through the emptiness. She felt their presence, close and looming, shadows dancing just out of sight. Refusing to look back, Angie plunged deeper into the woods, aware of the branches clawing at her skin. The darkness enveloped her, creating a labyrinth of terror, but then, a glow flickered ahead, a soft light piercing through the dense blackness of the trees. Hope ignited her spirit. Maybe there's someone there, she thought, pushing herself forward. The light pulsed, inviting her closer. With every desperate stride, the whispering shadows grew fainter behind her, but the need for escape ignited a question in her heart: would a flickering light reveal safety, or would it lead her deeper into darkness? Just as her hand brushed against the warm wooden doorframe, she paused. From somewhere behind her, a voice echoed, painfully familiar. "You can't run forever, Angie, you are one of us now. Heart pounding, she threw open the door and stepped inside. What awaited her inside, safety or another nightmare? As the door slammed shut behind her, she whipped around, breath hitching in her throat. The shadows writhed outside, forming faces all too recognizable. Had she truly escaped, or was this just another layer of the haunting? And then, the candle flame sputtered against the impending dark. Angie's breath hitched in her throat as the candlelight flickered, casting ghostly shadows that danced ominously along the wooden walls. She could feel the pull of despair thickening in the air, as if the very walls held the memories of those who had inhabited this place before. She strained to pinpoint the faces manifesting beyond the door, each one a painful echo of her conscious and unconscious fears. "Are you here to find peace?" A trembling voice echoed from the darkness, striking her like a sudden gust of wind. It seeped through the cracks of the door, wrapping around her. She felt suffocated, the warmth of the candle behind her failing to fend off the lingering chill that gripped her heart. "What do you want?" Angie managed to choke out, her voice trembling as her mind raced. "Why are you doing this to me?" "Because you have seen us," the voice whined, barely audible, but laced with a desperation that crawled under her skin. It was an incomplete thought, like a haunted echo begging for closure. "You can't ignore us now. What do you want me to do?" She stepped further into the room, driven by a mix of fear and a strange curiosity, wanting to understand but terrified of the knowledge lurking in the shadows. "Free us," it wafted through like a mist, pressing against her. "Only you can release us from our pain. We have been trapped for so long." Angie reached for the candle, its delicate flame providing reassurance. "Free you? How? You're just trapped spirits. You're just shadows." Did she really believe that? The memories from the night rushed back, haunting dreams, whispered regrets unraveling very fabric of her soul, and buried secrets surfacing from the graves of her past. With a sudden gust, the flame flickered wildly, casting her shape in stark contrast against the swirling darkness. For a fleeting moment, she almost saw the full images of the figures, their features twisted yet somehow familiar. They were not just lost souls, they were like her, broken and seeking solace. "Join us." The first figure's voice erupted, a sickening choir rising outside. "We are family, we are connected. You need us as much as we need you." The urgency twisted at her gut, and she stumbled backward, seeking the door. Just as her fingers brushed the cold handle, the shadows pushed through, curling tendrils of darkness wrapping around her limbs like iron chains. One of the faces emerged, twisted in pain yet unmistakably familiar, its eyes begging for salvation. "No!" she screamed, panic flooding her every thought. "I want to become one of you." Inside her mind, a battle raged. One moment, she felt immense compassion for the lost spirits, the next, their desperation felt suffocating, like a noose tightening around her throat. She was not a savior. She was not a martyr. As their voices crescendoed, pleading and clamoring, the shadows swirled around her. She felt herself slipping, a part of her yearning to connect, to relent, but just as she thought she might give in, a blinding flash illuminated the room, the candle exploded into bright shards, showering her in brilliant light. The shadows recoiled, hissing like a swarm of angry bees. For a moment, she saw them for what they were, lost energies, trapped between worlds, their sorrow radiating with an ache she could almost touch. "What do I do?" she whispered, her voice a mere tremor. "Tell us what you see," they urged, echoing the resonance of their collective pain. As if struck by lightning, realization clawed at her mind. "You're not just trapped here. You're caught in the weight of your past. Each one of you has a story that is forgotten." The shadows paused, caught in the moment between acceptance and fury. They waited, swaying as if teetering on the edge of release. Hope flickered in her chest, a thought that maybe, just maybe, she could offer them more than just refuge. Then silence. Angie took a deep breath. "I can help you." Remember the moment she spoke, a tidal wave of energy surged through the room, a blinding light threatening to swallow her whole. Shadows screamed, twisting in agonizing anguish. But she stood firm. ready to confront the truths waiting to rise from the depths of despair. But as the light grew brighter, darkness still clawed at her reality, and an ominous whisper echoed from somewhere deep within, "It's time, Angie, time to choose." As the brilliance enveloped her, a gripping question lingered in the air: what choice lay ahead, betrayal of her own sanity, or the promise of salvation? The blinding light pulsated with a life of its own, wrapping around Angie like ghostly fingers, squeezing as if trying to extricate a truth she was yet to unveil. The shadows writhed, their forms twisting in agony as they edged closer, drawn to her like moths to flame. Then, she heard it, the low, sorrowful whimper of a forgotten memory slicing through the air. Angie, a familiar voice beckoned, tender and painful, igniting her heart with longing. As if the walls themselves were breathing, the house groaned, shifting under the weight of forgotten stories. "Is that you, Mom?" The words escaped her lips before she could rein them in. It was one name that roused a storm of emotion, spiraling her back to sunny afternoons and laughter now lost. "Please, we need you." The shadows gathered, their shapes flickering, giving her a view of the faces she once knew, but bitter reality marred them. The longing for connection was drowned by the nausea of dread. She could feel their despair, clawing at her heart. The urge to help was like a double-edged sword. "Help? You want me to help?" Angie's voice cracked, but she pressed on. You're trapped. Do you want me to join you?" "No. Not join. Remember." Their voices merged into a dreadful harmony, echoing her pain. The very thought of diving into these murky waters of grief threatened to overwhelm her. As if in a trance, she stumbled deeper into the room, drawn by the faces that lingered like photographs teetering on the edge of memory. With each step, the air thickened. It smothered her like a well-worn quilt, familiar yet suffocating. The light danced erratically, illuminating never-before-seen details: scratched floorboards, weathered furniture, and the symbols clawed into the walls by manic hands. "Tell us the stories," they urged, urgency thrumming in their combined voices. Each word struck her like cold steel. Angie blinked, trembling under the weight of buried thoughts creeping back into the forefront of her consciousness. There were nights filled with whispered confessions and hushed arguments echoing off these walls. There were secrets that had festered like open wounds too raw to face. "What if I can't?" she found herself pleading. It felt like standing on the precipice of an endless abyss, ready to plunge. "We'll be with you," they whispered, a wave of cold assurance blanketing her. "But you must say our names outside," the winds howled, as if nature itself were warning her against the storm looming ahead. Shadows clawed at her mind, and the figure's faces twisted between anger and longing. Angie's knees buckled, and she gasped, clenching her fists. Okay. I'll try." She took a deep breath, forcing the sorrow from her throat. Each name rolled off her tongue like bitter medicine. Dorothy, Frank, James. With each name, a piece of her heart cracked open. They were memories she had tucked away, bundled in darkness. The shadows trembled violently, and she could feel the room pulse with energy. It was as though the very fabric of grief and longing pulsated around her. "Now, Angie. We are you. You cannot flee from what you've lived." Suddenly, an ear-piercing scream echoed through the room. It was horrendous and raw. "No!" something shrieked. The shadows recoiled, and chaos erupted around her. Faces she feared and loved twisted into a nightmare. Heart racing, she clutched her chest, gasping for control. A swirling chaos of sound spun her around, the figures pleading and howling, ripping memories from the dark recesses of her mind. The heat of their anguish threatened to engulf her, and then, silence. Angie felt lightheaded, consciousness teetering. She had awoken something, ignited their need for remembrance, but at what price? The flickering light dimmed, shadows inching back into obscurity. Yet one voice surged above the rest, a whisper that brought terror to her heart. "Finish this, Angie. Or you will join us forever." Just outside the door, shadows began to take form, shapes twisting as they danced closer, their eyes glinting with a sinister truth that made her bones chill. "What have I unleashed?" she Thought, hands shaking, dread pooling in her stomach. Yet, in the thickening silence lay a question, heavy and resolute: would she find the courage to face the truth buried inside, or would darkness grip her forever? Angie's heart raced, thundering in her ears like the pounding of drums. Shadows loomed at the door, whispering her name, no, not just her name, but a desperate plea twisted with sorrow and anger. The air shifted as if the very walls of the room were alive, pressing in on her, stifling her breath. Finish this, Angie. Or you will join us forever. The words echoed, seeping into her mind like smoke curling around a flame. She felt the heat of desperation creep closer, pulsating around her like an ominous reminder that the stakes of remembering were steep. The faces in the shadows were a kaleidoscope of anguish and hope. Their eyes bore down on her, dark wells of entrapment, yet fraught with longing. Each pair of eyes told a fragmented story waiting to be woven back together. They needed her, but their need aroused a primal fear deep in her gut. What do you want from me?" she whispered, shaking. "Your truth, your memories. Set us free." They cried, their voices rising in an unsettling chorus that sliced through the suffocating silence. The shadows pressed closer. She could almost feel their chill wrapping around her, clawing through the strands of her will. Images flickered across her mind like a broken film reel, the laughter from family dinners, tears over shattered dreams, and the never-ending nights of regret, each memory fueling the dark chaos within. A sensation like icy water trickled down her back as a memory she locked away fought to surface with brutal force. It was her last argument with her mother, a fight that had hung thick in the air like a storm cloud too afraid to burst. "You never understood," she had screamed, the words laced with bitterness. The image blurred, but the emotional impact stayed raw and jagged. "You must remember." The shadows insisted, their forms wavering as if predicting her resistance. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" she yelled, hands clenching tighter. But even as she said it, a part of her knew that couldn't happen. They were part of her history, woven into her very identity. Yet a thick dread settled in her chest, a conviction that once she started, there would be no turning back. The shadows swirled in response, fluidly shifting as they whispered the names again. "Dorothy Frank James, your mother." "No!" Angie shouted, a surge of anger overriding the fear. "Face it to break free," they chorused. "Without truth, there is only torment." Angie's breath hitched, caught in the snare of her emotional turmoil. Was she prepared to peel back the layers of jagged memories only to find herself lost amid grief? Each name carved an invisible mark on her psyche. They were stories longing to surface, and with them came the promise of pain. Suddenly, the walls quaked slightly as if rueful spirits were pushing against them, urging the memories to burst forth. The shadows coalesced into one steady figure, a silhouette that shimmered with the essence of her mother. "You can do this, Angie. We are within you. Remember us. Just let me go." Angie screamed, throwing her hands up, feeling the desperate energy crackle around her, the sound of sorrow echoing through the room. But there was no escape. The darkness deepened, and she was ensnared. The shadows merged into a swirling vortex of memories, threatening to engulf her entirely. "You have to choose," they hissed, the rush of voices blurring the lines between past and present. Was she brave enough to confront the depths of her sorrow? Then, from the maelstrom, a flicker of light shot forward, catching her eye, a sharp image amidst the chaos. An elderly woman on her deathbed, a whispered promise hanging between them. "Promise me, Angie. No regrets." Angie's breath hitched. That wasn't just a memory. That was a door, slightly ajar, inviting her inside to rediscover everything she had shut away. With trembling hands, she stepped forward. The flickering light might just be her salvation or her undoing. But was she ready to confront what lay behind that door? Each hesitation pulled her deeper into uncertainty. Could she face the fabric of her past? Or would she become just another shadow in this forsaken house? And as she stood on the brink, the truth beckoned: embrace me, or be lost forever. Angie stepped through the glowing threshold, her senses engulfed by a wave of warmth that seemed to counter the cold dread of the shadows outside. The vibrant light enveloped her, illuminating a fragile scene that she thought had faded into dust. Her grandmother's bedroom reassembled around her, an intimate embrace of faded floral wallpaper, family photographs lining the walls, and an air thick with memories both sweet and sour. "Promise me, Angie," the voice, faint yet echoing, drifted through the air like the last whisper of a hum. Her grandmother's frail form lay beneath the soft covers, skin paler than the sunlight framing the room. Her heart twisted at the memory of that long-ago day, the day they had said goodbye. Angie's words caught in her throat. Regret clung to her like moisture in a storm, heavy and stifling. She desperately wanted the comfort of the past, yet the shadows clawed just beyond the room, reminding her of the burden of truth she could not ignore. The walls trembled. With a shuddering gasp, Angie turned to see the murky outlines of those same shadows behind her. They seemed to pulse with urgency, drawing strength from her fragile state. "Set us free," they hissed, their chorus an unsettling reminder of all she had tangled in denial. "You remember her, don't you?" Those words broke a dam within her. Memories gushed forward, carrying the bitter scent of unresolved conflict and the sweetness of love. The tumors of pain began to throb in her memory. She could see herself, a stubborn girl, stubbornly digging in her heels during arguments, refusing to hear the wisdom in her grandmother's gentle voice. "What did you mean? No regrets?" The question slipped from her lips, rippling through the air. Her grandmother's eyes flickered open, revealing a glimmer of the vibrant spirit that had once filled this room. "Angie, it's not about never hurting. It's about living, fully, every laugh, every tear. Regrets bind us, love unshackles," she whispered, her voice a mere thread of sound yet filled with urgency. Angie's heart pounded as she struggled between the desire to cling to those fleeting moments and the rising tide of guilt. Shadows writhed in the corners, demanding attention, a reminder that ignoring them would only deepen their torment. "Face your fears. Remember the pain so you can heal it," spoken softly. Those words started yet another wave of memories crashing over her. Bursting forth, they revealed the last days of her grandmother's life, not just the fights but the tender moments they shared as well. The laughter over shared meals, tears during heartfelt talks, and those deep, piercing discussions that cut through the routine like a bolt of lightning. But what loomed larger was the image of her grandmother reaching for her hand at the end, grateful despite the disagreements. "Your life is filled with choices, Angie. Choose love," her grandmother said, the warmth of her presence bleeding through the fading shadows. Angie realized she was standing at the nexus of every interaction she had ever known. She had rejected the pain, locked it into the recesses of her mind. Yet now, connected to this burgeoning understanding, she could grasp it tightly. These memories weren't chains but wings, inviting her to fly. But as the warmth of the past began to light her heart, the shadows surged. "Join us, Angie!" they screeched, their voices dark and brooding, twisting under the weight of desperation. "No!" she shouted back, recognizing the danger of her fears rising anew. "I will remember. All of it." An electric crackle coursed through the air as the shadows howled in fury, recoiling. Yet, in that very moment, it became clear each name they called out was an invitation, each painful memory a step toward liberation. But would her acceptance be enough to silence them? Would facing her darkest truths grant her freedom or pull her deeper into despair? With her heart pounding, Angie took a deep breath, braced herself, and stepped further into the light. A life reclaimed from the clutches of the past beckoned her. But just as she felt the pull of hope, a chilling whisper slithered through the air, "Remember the good, but can you handle the truth?" All the while, shadows danced hungrily on the periphery, waiting for the finale to unfold. Would embracing her memories lead her to the peace the shadows sought, or would the revelations threaten to swallow her whole? Angie stood resolute in the blinding light, her heart racing, fueled by a primal mix of fear and fierce determination. Shadows clawed at the edges, desperate to reclaim their hold, but she felt the warmth of her grandmother's love seep into her spirit. It gave her strength. "Remember the good, but can you handle the truth?" The whisper echoed in her mind, haunting yet compelling. She glanced back at the dark figures looming just beyond the doorway, their eyes swirling with urgency and sorrow. Each moment of doubt clawed at her resolve, but she had come too far to back down now. "I can handle it," Angie shouted, her voice ringing with fierce conviction. "I'm brave enough to face who I am, who we all are." With each word, the darkness shimmered, flickering like a candle in a storm. "I will remember you, your stories, your pain. Together, we'll find peace." The shadows recoiled, whispers mingling in a cacophony of hurt. "What if you can't?" One hissed, "What if the truth is too much?" Yet, the warmth from her grandmother enveloped her, urging her to embrace the past rather than shun it. Flowers of memories bloomed, filling the air with their essence. Angie felt her grandmother's spirit dance close as she shouted the names, a rhythm forging unity. Dorothy. Frank. James. Mom. Each name echoed through the air, solidifying the bond, forging connections through the dark. The shadows flickered, showing faces, stories swirling into clarity, a family intertwined by both love and loss. Then the darkness writhed with discomfort, but Angie pressed on, fiercely determined. "You are not just shadows. You are the pieces of me, fragments of everyone who loved and missed you. You deserve to be remembered. And I will help you break free." A brilliant flash of light erupted from her words, like a dawn breaking through the suffocating night. Shadows shrank back, and in their place, bright images filled her mind. Memories of laughter, joy, and warmth surged forward, illuminating the depths of her heart. As her voice rose, so did a collective sigh of relief, whispering through the very air. "Find peace. Face your truth," they breathed, echoing the essence of release at hand. The whirlwind of memories rushed forth, crashing against the darkness that had once imprisoned her. In that instant, Angie felt an unfamiliar sensation blossom deep within hope. She envisioned her grandmother's kind smile and the warmth of every shared hug, the heartbreak of every fight melting into realization. "All your pain, all my pain, it doesn't need to hold us captive. Love will set us free." With those earnest words, the shadows began to dissipate, unveiling the bright warmth of understanding as they intertwined with her memories. Faces once drawn into agony softened. It sparked something transformative, stirring life into the darkness. The air crackled with palpable energy as the last threads of despair unraveled, woven into a tapestry of release. The shadows shimmered once more, now less threatening, the faces glimmering with gratitude and peace. "Thank you," their collective voice echoed, resonating through the space as the light flared, swaddling the room in warmth and comfort. Angie's heart soared. "You're free now," she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release, of healing. She embraced the sense of understanding, knowing it was just the beginning, and just like that, the shadows twirled around her, slowly merging with the light until they vanished, leaving nothing but the gentle glow of memory behind. The room hummed with serenity, a sense of resolve filling the once haunted gas station. She stepped back from the threshold, the shadows of the past transforming into a kind of love that would forever remain with her. The gas station, once a prison of lost souls, was now a sanctuary for the stories waiting to be told. As she took a deep breath, feeling the warmth and light wrap around her, the door creaked open behind her. The feeling of the night was different now, calm, peaceful. She looked back one last time, smiling at the echoes of the past. "I'll remember you, always. Thank you for allowing me to help." With conviction, Angie stepped into the world outside, her heart filled with a bright new purpose. The gas station no longer loomed like a shadow, but instead stood as her own personal lighthouse, guiding lost souls home. She was not just a survivor, she was a storyteller ready to share the truth of life, love, and the bonds that bind us all. And in that moment, she knew she was free. Now, before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And listen up. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's time to connect, so let us keep this amazing community going.